Um, yeah, so hi team. So today's concept is SQL. So this week, starting today, I'm planning on taking the SQL sessions. I don't know how many days it will end. I'm planning it for like around 4 to 5 days for now. So like I choose many platforms and many skills. I have choose the SQL so that it would be useful commonly for every one of us. If you go to the data engineer or data analyst stream where you use SQL when you are doing the extract, transformation, and loading of the data there. So basically, doing this ETL to do this ETL performances, so you have to use the SQL logics. For example, you are having a data where your company is getting or your client is getting, and if you want to transform it fields or if you want to remove the rows which you don't want there, you can use the SQL query. So for example, let's assume there is a table. uh, there may be empty data there. There may be data completely filled. You want to change the field name. How can you change that? You can use the SQL queries to do this. So you can, what I can say, you can use this SQL to write all these queries. Let me go to the brief introduction. So for data engineers and data analysts, this is how SQL is getting used. For DevOps guys, they can access the client-based applications using this SQL there. Even when I worked, I have used the query language to retrieve the database. So I have, for example, in my case, I have worked for Azure multi-factor authentication. Whenever there is some issues in our services, we used to go into the database and we used to query where we got the issue, what happened exactly, so that in DevOps career also it is useful, in data career also it is useful. um, in data analysis also, as you know, after we extract and transform and load the data for the analyzing purposes also, or to retrieve the data from BigQuery or Snowflake or Redshift from anywhere, you have to use SQL query also, like we discussed yesterday. For Redshift it is using SQL, so you can use this SQL there also. Coming to the SAP, many people may feel like that's not much use, but for the SAP also it is getting used. Like what I can say, store we can store and retrieve the business transactions, so that the data in the SAP HANA that can be retrieved there. So we can use primary keys here also to identify a specific field here to use. So okay, this is the overall. I'm just telling you so that everyone can feel like, hey, this is helpful for us. It's not going to get waste. So the skill is really useful even if you're switching domains. Most of the domains use this skill, so definitely SQL is going to be very important. I hope you guys join every day so that I will try to make the sessions friendly and easily understandable. And I'm trying to mostly cover basics and fundamentals only, not going deeply. And if time permits and if you guys also show interest, I can go deep into this SQL. So coming to the SQL, I can say SQL SQL is nothing but structured query language. Structured query language. So the reason, if you see, you will be adding your skills, right? Hey, I am having programming language skills. Programming language. That language is used for programming. So C++, Java. These are used for writing the applications, building applications, and these codes can do many things. But this is not programming language, this is query language. Many people get confused, like when they ask, somebody ask, what are the like programming languages, many of they say, I know the SQL also, but that's not a programming language, that's just a querying language. In the name itself there is a query, it's only useful for the querying. And in the bracket, if you see, I have written the database. Only if you have database, then only SQL is there. If no database, no SQL is there. So what's database? First of all, database, what I can say is, for example, what will be inside a home? You will be having bedrooms, hall, kitchen, many items. So entire these things makes your house. Like this database name itself, it is there. That's a base for the data. What type of data? You can store tables, you can store schemas, Schemas, I'm telling you again, schema is very important. Many times people get confused. So schema is nothing but a table information. For example, this is the table. This is customer ID, first name, last name. These are the rows. For example, these are the columns. These are the rows. So schema is something.
Hello,
Uh,
hello, Abdul.
you will.
Your screen is not visible.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're not sharing your screen.
Sorry. Let me share my screen. Yeah, yeah. I'm not showing biggest pictures. That's okay. So, yeah, if you see a table, there is a customer ID, first name, last name, date. These are the columns you have, and these are the rows you have. So, what I can say is the schema consists of the metadata. It will say, hey, you have four rows. Four columns, five rows. This is just table info. That is called a schema. So, schema is nothing but what I can say metadata of table. That's just a information, not entire content. See, if I go inside, first name there is like Abdul, Ram, Lakshman. These are there. This is content. So this is real content, but these are field names and rows and columns only. This is just giving you the table info. How many rows are there? Columns are there? What is this? So schema is metadata of the table, not the real context of the table, real content of the table. So database basically stores all this data, schemas. Schema is also a table, schema, and tables which are having contents and many other information. So all of the data gets stored in database. We have came to hear many times, like we have heard many times RDBMS. What is RDBMS? Relational Database Management System. Relationless database management system is nothing but data storage systems. Okay, so for example, this is the data storage system. You can access using multiple items that are available outside. There is database. You have to log in and work with that, right? For example, there is data. For example, you are storing some data. I mean, Google Drive or in some any drive platform. How you are accessing it? Using the search bar, using the toolbar, you are accessing it. But coming to the SQL, this is structured query language. What I can say structured, it is structured. It is not unstructured. When you can say structured, for example, in school, when you are completely wearing the uniform, shoe, um tie, belt, everything you have prepared well, you went well. So you can say it as professional or you are in a uniform. That's structured. That is how it should be. So it's not like you came on some casual wear or some fashion wear. So like SQL also, it is saying structured query language. You can say the data is structured. Table. If you can go to the table, you will be having rows and columns. You will be having columns, rows, field names. All this data is structured. It's not like raw data. It's not like clumsy. It's like it's in neat matter. So we can say structured query languages. That's only talking about tables. There are different forms of data. You can have CSV, you have JSON files, you have XML files, right? Likewise, you have these tables in which the data is stored in rows and columns. So, coming to the SQL, just try to understand this terminologies. This is very important. So, column names can also be referred to the fields. You guys may get confused. Like, just keep these keep these words in mind if you are really beginner. So, column, we refer this as columns, but this can be referred as fields also. They can say, hey, change the field name. That they mean change the column name. Rows can also be said as records. It can also be said as record. For example, first name it is Abdul. Abdul is a record. It's not a field. Field is first name. Record is a my name. So records or rows can be same, and fields and columns can be referred like columns can be referred as fields. Okay. So uh, before this, what I can say, I don't want to confuse. Okay. So basically, What is this used for? RDBMS. You can do many operations. CRUD. This word you will come to hear many times when you are working with SQL. What this mainly does? Okay, Abdul, there is a table. What we gonna do with this? I have a table of content. Why you are using SQL? First of all, you are talking about SQL. What are the uses of it? You are having a table. Query language. I said structured query language. Query language in the sense it is useful for querying. For example, uh, your job is to query. What you'll do? Your purpose is to query it, retrieve it. So, for example, there is a table. If you want to query something, that means, for example, let's say you have a this table is called as student attendance register. What you can query from this? Whose name starts with A? Whose name ends with A? Whose village is who is living in Hyderabad? Who is living in USA? These are all queries, right? I'm telling verbally. But if you want to retrieve the same information from the table, what you will do? You will write a language, query language that queries your questions, your needs from the table. So you can write languages. Hey, I need first name starting with Abdul in this table name, and it will give you the output. That means what it is doing, it is taking something from the table, asking it, querying it the table, and giving you the output. So this query language helps you to uh, query the information from the table, and you can create, read, update, and delete in this rows, in this context. For example, you have four records, you have four students, you want to add fifth student to the table. You can create a table, you can read the table, you can update the table, you can delete the table, you can delete my name also from the register, you can update my name, you can read my name, you can create a new table. All these things you can do using SQL. Okay, so SQL is helpful for doing creations, read, update, deletion, and querying of the data from the table. This is what I can say. So you SQL basically works on database. In the database, data is stored in tables, and you can read to the table, table information using the query language. This is the overall overview I can say. And uh, for example, you have a uh, attendance table. Table name is attendance. In that table, you will what will be having in the attendance table? Roll number, student first name, student last name, student phone number. You may be having these items in register. And maybe there is another book or table. Let's consider, I'm just giving an example. Let's consider another table or book is there. That's maybe not attendance book, but that maybe the office administrator may be using it, like a list of students who join their school. It's not for attendance purpose, but we can link relationships between the table. For example, there is a register and there is a attendance book. You can link these two tables also. So maybe in register, there may be having your father name also along with the first name. In register, your father have registered to you, right? So your father's number also will be there, but your name will be again mentioned in that table also. In office register, your father name, your name will be there. In your attendance register also, your first name is there. There is a relationship there. For example, from the attendance register, I have found a student. I want to get his father's name from another table. I can establish a relationships between the two books, two tables. That's how from the table, first name is there also. So I can retrieve the other table information using the first name similar into the table. That's how I'm going to show you all these things in practical. So don't worry, I'm just trying to give you a brief overview. Maybe some people really know the SQL, some people really don't know SQL at all. So I just want to give brief overview so that everyone will understand it easily. Okay, so this can be this can establish a relationships between the tables using the other constants. So database can be local and cloud. If you I will show you how to install and configure the database, like management systems, no? You can install your database locally, and in cloud also you can use, for example, AWS RDS. That's a database system only. You can store your data in cloud also, you can store your data in locally also. So for example, in some companies, if you want to access a data, there are different employees. Let's assume if they wanted to access the same data, distributed access, they will go with cloud, for example, because every local guy can't work with the data distributedly centrally, right? So for that, I think we'll be having local and cloud databases, two different types. In these sessions, we'll gonna use local only for basically tutorial or learning purposes. Every one of us will go to local only primarily. And there is something called entity relationship diagrams. So basically, most of you guys may not come across this platform when you're learning about SQL, but yeah, this is also important. Entity relationship diagram is, for example, let's consider, let me show you this in the Google only. So, see, so let's consider there are four tables. One table name is student. Let's consider one table name is student, one table name is class, one table name is teacher, another table name is student. So when companies they're working, basically when you go into the company, when you start working, they already have the items established. Already they will be they will be tables. Everything is ready, infrastructure. But I'm just letting you know what is this ER diagram. So entity relationship diagram. In the name itself, it is there. For example, this is a one entity, student entity, and class entity is there. So there are, for example, let's consider four entities are there. They will draw, like for example, what when you are constructing a building, you will draw the like architecture will draw the building plan, right? So what we're gonna do roughly, so that they will draw a draft, so that it will be easy. They will understand what's gonna be happen in the future. That may not be exact one, but that's just a diagram, so that they will get the clear understanding. See, uh, they're establishing, hey, we have student. For the student and class, there are something in common. If you see, in student also integer ID is there, in class also the student ID is there. If you see, in college or in your school, if you're having a roll number, wherever you go, that will be the same roll number, right? Even in the class register you will be having, even in the administrative register, if that they will call you with the same roll number, you will be having a unique roll number. That's same in any table. So that how you can establish the relationships between the table if there is anything matching. Like I said, the for the student example previously, like register and these items, you can do like this. For example, there is ID in class. If you want to retrieve something about the email ID of the student in the class table that is not there, using some other items like primary case that I'm gonna discuss further, I don't want to confuse you. So you can establish the connections here. So that's what I can say here until now. If I'm not going into practical, I don't want to confuse you guys. Okay, so yeah, that's entity relationship diagram. So whenever some company started working or planning to start working on the SQL, I mean, to work on the data, they first of all draw a rough draft. Hey, we may be needing this much of tables. Maybe we have to uh, add these accesses to the table. I mean, relationships to the table. They will have a brief draft. What are going to do? So coming to the relationship database softwares, what are these? So I said you will be having a database. You have to do the SQL querying to do that. So for that, we have many platforms. If you see, to write a email, you have many platforms. You have Gmail application. In Apple, you'll be having mail application. You will be having many applications to write the same email. What are they doing? To perform your operations, they are providing multiple platforms. You can do from anywhere. If you want to do a for, if you want to pay your phone bill, if you want to do your mobile recharge, nowadays you can see you will be having Phone Pay, Google Pay, many items applications are this nowadays. They are doing your mobile recharges. See, recharge is same thing, but many other platforms are performing this. I mean, many other softwares are providing you these platforms to perform that. So now you may feel what all this you may came across these names when you're applying to the jobs, and you may have heard these names: Oracle, Microsoft SQL Server, MySQL, Postgres, SQLite. So these are nothing but platforms. In MySQL, you can perform the same operations. In MySQL Server, you can perform the same operations. But you can say, hey, what's the difference between these? Why some companies are using this? Why some companies are using this? So if you go, for example, let's see, if your company is mostly using the Microsoft suite like Teams and Azure platforms, they will buy this suite also, Microsoft SQL servers. They will try to adopt to the Microsoft SQL server for querying the data. So there may be the syntax difference. For example, like that, I can give you example. Like in phone pay, you may click on pay now. It may just directly ask you the code to enter the UPI pin, and it will pay it. In GPay, Google Pay, that may ask you another more step. Likewise, there may be slight differences in these platforms also. In MySQL platform, just there may be small syntax changes. That's it. In Oracle, there may be another syntax. But I can say um, there may be only slight syntax changes. There is nothing much. If you try to learn MySQL, I'm trying to explain the SQL with this MySQL platform in our sessions. So even if you learn from here, it would be easy for you guys to catch this. That's not a big deal. You just have to see the differences, what are the differences and what are the syntax differences you are occurring. You will be It would be easy to catch into another. You can easily move into any other platforms. Just understanding of the SQL and the queries is important here. So like I said, there are relationship database management system, RDBMS. To interact with this, we will be using SQL. So this is data storage system. You'll be having data here. To query this, we to interact with this, we are using the SQL here. Okay, that's the basic understanding. So whenever someone say what's a SQL, you can say SQL is used to interact with the relationship database management system. You can do multiple items there. I'm writing the full name here. There are three types of statements for the SQL: DDL, DCL, DML. Maybe many times you guys came across this word. Okay, so DCL, DDL, data definition language, DCL, DML, these are nothing but uh, definitions, statements of SQL. I can make it easy for you. So for example, what's data definition language? It is telling itself data definition, defining the data. It's basically defining the data. So like I said, schemas are there which defines the table, what table contains, what is table having. It defines the contents of the table, metadata. So like this, data definition does not contain the exact does not do any operations other than defining the data. How, what is the data, or like what type of data is there. That's all it is. Okay, coming to the data control language. Data control, in the name, see, try to understand with the names. Data control, you are controlling the data. What you can access or revoke the data. For example, there is a guy called some X. He wants to access to this data. You can grant access to the user or revoke the access to the user. So that all platform comes under data control language. So these are two types. Coming the SQL, that's here, this is the main part: data manipulation language. You can say SQL, because data manipulation, what I try to say, you can create that data. You can create a table, update the data, insert the data, delete the data. What are you doing? Manipulation. What do you mean by manipulation? You're just changing it. We will say, right, hey, this guy is manipulating that person. So what is manipulation? You are changing it, or you are deleting it. You're doing some sort of actions to the data. You are trying to manipulate the data. Add, delete, update, anything. That's a manipulation only, right? That comes under SQL. So SQL, that's the main part that's doing data manipulation. You can perform data manipulations also. I can't say that's only manipulating, that does manipulation also. Okay. So SQL is case insensitive. So for example, let me show you the example. This is my table. This is my workbench. So if I try to do customers here, even if I write capital here or small here, it will not throw me error. There are many other languages outside, right? Where it basically, if you try to give the uppercase and lowercase combined, it will give you the errors because they may be case sensitive. But SQL is not case sensitive. You don't have to worry about the case sensitivity here. You just have to worry about syntaxes when you are writing the queries in the SQL. And basically, this ends with the semicolon. Like every programming language has its own syntax, comma, semicolon, many syntaxes. So this SQL is having the syntax. It ends with semicolon when you're writing this one. Use okay, I'll try to explain you this, guys. So see, this query started with create table. We just given it this into format. Here your bracket started and ended, and the line ended with the semicolon. This is how your line ends, query line ends. Okay, so this is the brief overview about the SQL workbench. SQL. So you guys can install MySQL workbench so that we can start working on it. You can go to MySQL Workbench website. Go to MySQL Workbench. You can come and click here, download now. So mine is Mac OS. So basically, if I'm using M chip, not like previously before M chips, we used to work on Intel. Mac OS used to use Intel. For those guys, you can download this. For this guys who are using M chips, you guys can install this one for ARM. You can choose your platforms. If you're using Windows, Microsoft Windows, Ubuntu Linux, Red Hat, Fedora, okay, you can select multiple. Microsoft Windows x86 bit installer, you can use this application. I mean, you can use this button to download it. So basically, after downloading it, you will be not having much confusion there. Just try to understand where it's getting installed. Like for the Windows guys, if you try to understand if it's getting installed in the programming files, just try to remember the path where you are getting installed, so that if you're working on the workbench using the terminal, you guys can do changes from there. So like I said, this is the Microsoft Workbench. So what I can do is, mm, see, basically come here. So when you install this workbench, so I already installed and configured, that's why it is directly showing me this. But if you want to connect to some database, if you want to connect to database, just go to database. For you guys also, you can see this. You can try to give the host name and port number. So when you try to log in, defaultly when you install, defaultly it will show you the local port. Let me show you guys. Let me show for you guys instead of just escaping and okay. So where is that? Yeah. If you install Workbench, this is what you can see. It locally automatically detects the local user. So it automatically shows you this. But if you want to connect to some specific database, you have to just go to connect database. If you're just wanted to connect to any cloud database, you can give that IP address here and its port number. You can access from there. Okay. So if you see here, even if you click here, that shows the same. Okay. If I come into the settings, this is my host name, this is my port, this is my root. Basically, this is getting stored in keychain as I'm using Mac. You can set your own password to log into your database. Okay, so um, see, it is asking me. So it automatically detects when you install this. It automatically detects if you already have the MySQL server. Now it's opening the SQL editor. Okay. Okay. Until getting the application, we are good. Like I said, MySQL Workbench. What is this? This is also another platform like Oracle, PostgreSQL. So this is MySQL Workbench. This is application. Just we'll try. It will consider MySQL pattern syntax, so that we can work with MySQL platform to query any data from the database. That's what I'm trying to say. For example, your data is somewhere. Connect to the database. We have connected locally. I said database can be two types. Our is local. This is local one. Local host name and port number and root, and we have created a name. But if you want to connect to some database, we can connect to the database and we can query the data from here. For example, there is some data in cloud platform. We want to, we have a table inside a cloud. We wanted to just get a table, you want to just get a row in which first name starts with A. You can write a query, connect to the database, then write a query here. That's how you can use it. So let me see if I'm missing anything before going into this. Yeah. So if I'm going into the workbench, um okay, guys, and another thing is I'm just skipping this, right? So basically, I always plan to make you guys understand all the installation steps from the starting. So if I take my time into making you guys understanding installation, if you guys get any issues at the installation level, if I'm trying to or planning to clarify every one of your doubts at the installation level, we may waste our time. That's why what I'm trying to do was I'm just trying to show you the installation, how we can do and entering here. But in real time, if you got any issues, you guys can still ping me personally. I may help you guys. Okay, so uh, there are a lot of guys here. If even 10 of you guys got issues at the installation level, it will consume a lot of time to explain every one of you. So that's why I'm directly skipping here. So yeah, we are into our database now. We have connected to the database, local database. We are into the database. Remember the hierarchy. What is the hierarchy? School is bigger one, then teachers, then students, right? Likewise, there is always a hierarchy. There is a database, okay? There is a database. Inside database, you will be having tables, okay? Understand? So first, working with database is important. Let me show you what are our database available here. Let's see. To run, you have to click here. See, these are the default databases. Don't worry. I haven't created this. Informatica, information schema, MySQL, performance schema. These are the not the databases that I have created. It automatically came. Okay. So what I can say is a database consists of certain amount of data. For example, you have created a database for the school purpose. In the database, only school items will be there. School, college, students, all the items related to school only will be there for the dedicated database. If you want to do work, if you want to store a data that's related to entirely related to the business, you can create a new database that consists all about business. It's not about school. So you can create a databases and you can switch into the particular database so that you can work inside that. You can use that. So let me show you. I have given show databases. So it is saying, hey, these are the databases you have. These three databases. Okay. So I can create new database also. Let me create a new environment. Create database. What we can give the name. Okay, it is saying, see, it is saying I'm just trying to show you this. It is saying it is incomplete because we haven't given semicolon. Create database. What I can say. Um, SQL tutorial. Let me zoom this. Sorry. It is saying it is showing me the queries also which I ran. Recently, I ran the create database SQL. It one row affected. It is saying tick mark. That means that successfully worked. So we have did this right. Let me run show data. It will automatically give suggestions. Okay. So SQL tutorial is also the database now, along with the other default databases. In SQL tutorial, we're gonna keep all the data related to the SQL tutorials. What are the items we're gonna learn, or like tables, all these items, we're gonna use that databases now. So we are currently in salam underscore data. We are currently using this data. So we have to be very careful now. Let me show you. Use SQL tutorial. See, now it is currently using SQL tutorial. So basically, what does it mean was after you clicked on use SQL, let me click here. See, it automatically highlighting this because it is using SQL tutorial. So once you start using SQL tutorial, after this, whatever steps you do, creation of tables, creation of rows, columns, what all the steps you do, it basically comes under this database only. Now, once you have did this use SQL tutorial, you have removed this also. So even now, whatever you do, that all comes at this database only. It's not going inside this database. So for example, let's say if you have started working on SQL tutorial, then you started planned on inserting a table or modifying a table in sys database, but you forgot to give the command use sys, or try if you forgot to switch to the sys, automatically that new modifications will get stored in SQL tutorial only, not here. So always it's important to see the databases and click use databases so that you will go into this database, and whatever you work inside here, that gets modified into this database. So switching into the database is important. That's the primary one. That's what I said. There are three items: database, and then uh, schemas and tables, then only. Okay. So first item is database. So this is what, like I said, you can show table there. You can create table, create, sorry, show database. I have shown you. Create database. I have shown you. There are, see, short databases. What it is showing, listing all the databases that are available. Create database. What it is showing, so it is basically creating a new database. Okay. So for example, if not exist database, what I can show you is, if not exist database, coming to here, I want to create a database. Again, SQL tutorial. It will show me, throw me the error because SQL tutorial is already exist. We will try to give. If not exist. See, it would say one warning, can't create. Okay. So whenever something it is, if the database is not there, it will automatically create. If it is already there, it will throw you the warning. So what I would say, suggest is, try to use this command. So even if you don't, if you have the clarity about your databases names, even if you don't use, that's not a big issue, I believe. Okay. And there are another commands. If you want to use that database, you can use this database. If you want to drop a database, if you drop, what it will do, delete. Basically, you can't undo. Once you deleted the database, if you see, if mistakenly, for example, in your company, if you have this some database in which your entire items are there, if you deleted the database, drop database, for example, let me assume drop. Okay. See, even if I'm giving smaller caps, it's not giving me biggest issue there. So it because it's case insensitive. Drop database. Which one? Let's drop SQL tutorial. See, I have simply deleted this. But in real time, this is very critical. If you delete this, entire tables, everything get deleted. If you give the drop that deletes the database there, drop that means delete the database SQL tutorial. You won't be having that in trash. Anywhere you can't find it. So but in real time and practical, when you are working in companies, they mostly won't give you the access to drop any database, because even if you mistakenly do the drop there, uh, even if you mistakenly drop there, uh, it you can't retrieve it back. Okay, that's how you do it. Okay, so what all pending with the database items, working with databases? You can rename the database from old to new using the rename command. So if I come here, what I can do here is rename database. Now, let's go data. I think from or to I should use. Both I should use. Yeah, only two. Two data. Yes. It is showing me the syntax here. I should give this use. So what's the error I'm giving here? Mhm. I believe I'm not giving any errors here. Salam underscore data. That's all true. Okay, let me short it out later. I'll talk about this later. So there is something called concept called table. See, We have database ready. Like I said, in our tables we'll be having our databases, schemas, in our database I said we may be having tables, schemas and everything. So we have our database ready. What we can keep inside our database? Tables. So to work on any tables, like I said, first it is important to be in the database first. So you will give the command use database there, so that you guys will use the database, like you will be inside the database to work with. And then you can come here. Let me see. Uh, Show tables. See, it is saying in Salam data, in this database, you are having two tables, orders and customers table. In customers tables, there are columns, foreign keys, indexes, and triggers. In orders table also, you will be having the same thing. Like I said, in every table, you will be having this one. Which one? See, in every table, you will be having the columns, right? So in table, it is saying it is having columns and indexes to identify. I will explain the it later. You will be having the foreign keys, primary keys, whatever you need it there. So that can be present inside this tables. So to see the tables, you can give this command show tables. You are using this Salam database. That's why it is showing the tables inside this. Okay. If you are using use, now it is here. If I give show tables, see, there are no tables here. That's why it is not showing any table here. So if you want to create or work on any table, just use the use command and the database name and then start working on it. So this is the commands to show the tables, all these things. Today I'm still having little time. I will just explain you guys a short thing that is like let's create a small table, or I'll try to um, make you understand the table contents. So to create the table, you will give the command create table and the table name which you wanted to create. And inside that table, you will give all the contents which you need. For example, if you consider this is your table. For example, if you consider this is your table, you will write a syntax create table, and inside brackets you want column ID, and you will be writing which type of data you are using. For customer ID, you are using numbers. For customer ID or roll number, only numbers are used, right? Rows, these are integers, and first name and last names, you will be using strings there. So you will try to give this there. Uh, See, so these are the SQL data types. I don't want to drag more. I thought I can complete tables concept today, but I'll start and complete tomorrow so that you won't get confused. So let me complete this SQL data types. So there are different data types. So if you want to use roll numbers or numbers, it is numeric. In bit, you'll be having zero ones. If your column type is data and date and time, you will use this format so that it will support the date and time in the table. If you are using a roll number, some roll numbers may be consisting of number along with the characters, like RAZZ1100. This is your roll number that is having numbers and characters also, right? In that, if you use varchar, you can use up to 50 characters inside bracket. If you can give varchar bracket 50 there, so that you are mentioning it, hey, I'm using uh, varchar for the roll number. This is how you can mention. And coming to the SQL data types, if you will be having Unicode, strings for the binaries, for the miscellaneous. So if you want to, you are having any sort of data to support that data, you are giving the type of the data you are gonna use here. Let me show you the example. I'm gonna end this. So if I come here, the Salam tables, you come here, go into orders, columns. See, if I go into the orders table, if I can show you, if you can see here down, I have Written a syntax saying, hey, I'm using order ID. That may be characters. Name, that may be where character. Name can be having up to 20 characters only. If I'm writing some name that is exceeding more than 20 strings, it would throw me error. So I am mentioning it. Hey, I need a table naming orders that should contain a columns, and these are its data types. Order is this data type, name is where character data type. These are all the data types I'm using. That is how making the table. So if I'm here, select all. I'll show you this also later. From orders, see, I'm saying I'm using order ID, name, amount, email. I'll show you tomorrow how I can enter this data, Abdul, John, Johnny, and amount also tomorrow, along with creation of columns also. I'm just telling theoretically now, right? Tomorrow, let's practically do this also, practically implement these items also. So this is how we are saying order name ID. We are using numbers. For that, we can use char. Name, it may be consisting of strings. That's why we are using varchar here. Amount, that's again it's like decimal, that's why using decimal data type. Email, that will be email may be consisting of your name and numbers also, that's why we're giving varchar. So yeah, these are the data types, and brief overview about what is database SQL for all today. Yeah, thanks for connecting. Let's discuss more tomorrow on this. Thank you.